This year's NBA draft lottery has been one of the most controversial lotteries we've ever seen, and it kind of changes everything. After Dallas randomly traded their 25-year-old superstar to the Lakers in what was called the dumbest trade in NBA history, they were rewarded with the very first overall pick in the draft despite having only a 1.8% chance of winning it. And it's not like this is a mediocre draft class either. This class has Cooper Flagg, who just had one of the greatest freshman seasons of all time. They went from making the NBA Finals to getting the first overall pick in the draft in the span of a single season. And what's honestly just as bad as that is the fact that the Spurs moved up and got the second pick. The Spurs have back-to-back Rookie of the Year award winners, more young star players than you can imagine, and somehow still got the second overall pick. The Utah Jazz won 17 total games and had the worst regular season record in the entire league. And what do they get to help turn their franchise around? The fifth pick. Pistons fans know something about that situation all too well. The difference between a top 3 pick and the fifth pick is massive. The NBA lottery started in 1985, yet the Utah Jazz have never gotten the first pick. And what's worse than that, they've never even moved up once. But the Wizards' situation is kinda similar. They managed to only win 18 games in the Eastern Conference and were rewarded with the 6th overall pick. They did have the second pick last year, but it's not like Alex Sarr is the guy who completely changes a franchise overnight. The Wizards haven't been to the conference finals since 1979, but the Spurs, who have multiple championships, have picked in the top 5 like 10 different times. And same thing for the Hornets. They won 19 games yet got the 4th pick. The 4 teams with the worst records in the entire NBA are all picking outside of the top 3. Yes, you can still get good players without having one of the very top picks, but you better draft extremely well and do it consistently. Since the NBA changed its lottery system in 2019, the teams with the worst record in the league have never picked first overall. And again, to make it worse, this is the 3rd straight year where the team with the worst record will pick 5th. Dallas had less than a 2% chance of getting it, yet they won it. And last year, the Hawks had a 3% chance and they won it. Clearly, the lottery system is kinda broken. I'm not saying all these teams should be rewarded for tanking, but there becomes a point where it's just stunting the growth of certain franchises, especially the smaller markets. Then on top of that, again, everyone thinks it's completely rigged. Not only for this year either, people have been calling it rigged literally from the very beginning. There are so many instances of it that it's almost irrefutable. This is just the most obvious and recent example. People were saying the Mavericks were gonna get the first pick because of the Luka trade right after it happened. It was a very common conspiracy, so if it is rigged and the NBA really went through with it, then they absolutely do not care what the fans think. Instead of having the worst team in the league get the first pick, they possibly invented a system where they can manipulate where certain players go. And not only that, they can manipulate the trajectory of certain franchises too. Welcome to professional sports. If you do think it's real, well then hopefully you're not a Bulls fan, because they literally lost out on Cooper Flagg because of a tie-breaking coin flip. That's the same franchise that also lost the coin flip for Luka Doncic. There are not many things that can break a sports fan's heart like the draft lottery, but now we just have to see how Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks handle things from here. It's already been reported that Dallas does plan to keep the pick. Let's just hope he actually drafts Cooper Flagg. The Spurs, however, could possibly look to trade the second pick. The next best player after Flagg is Dylan Harper, who's a really good tall guard out of Rutgers. To put him in perspective, he'd definitely go number 1 in the draft last season. Whether they keep him or not, the Spurs, who already have a ton of young star players, are getting even better. They would have been a playoff contender if it wasn't for Wembanyama and Fox both dealing with injuries. Luckily for the Sixers, they were able to keep their pick, and it's in the top 3. If they would have had the season they did, all to not get their pick, that would have been absolutely awful for them. Then of course, the Hornets, Jazz, and Wizards were all robbed with 4, 5, and 6. The Pelicans, who aren't terrible but had a ton of injuries, got the 7th pick. The rebuilding Nets and Raptors got 8 and 9. The 2-seeded Rockets will be adding the 10th pick. 11 goes to the Blazers. 12 is what the Bulls got instead of the first pick. 13 will go to the Hawks, and the final pick of the lottery also goes to the Spurs. Basically, the rich got richer and the actually bad teams will get what's left. Again, I'm not blaming the lottery for dooming every franchise. Trust me, some of these teams are simply poorly managed. But there's gotta be something they can try to do to tweak it even more. Some of these teams need a megastar player to finally turn everything around. They've made several changes to the lottery over the years, but nothing really significant. At this point, I'd be interested to see what would happen if the first pick went to whoever lost the most games like the NFL. Although in years where they have a guy like Wembanyama coming into the league, you might see a team go 0-82. But the way the whole lottery is turned out completely changes what is already expected to be a crazy offseason. It all depends on what these teams do with their picks. There could be some pretty big names suiting up for a new team next year. But let me know what you think about everything that went down during this year's draft lottery, and please leave a like on the video to support the channel. Also subscribe if you're new for more basketball videos just like this one.